Hi, and welcome back to the Uncensored Journey podcast, where we say whatever the fuck we want because it's our journey, like it or not. I am Cyndee Goldstein, and with me is
Gabriela Popescu.
today is a good one. Today we are talking about perfectionism, and so the the topic is stories of a recovering perfectionist, and this should be fun. So let's just dive right in, I guess. So, Gabriela, what has been your own experience with perfectionism?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Um, well, it started, I've always self-imposed uh, unrealistic expectations of myself, going all the way back to my parents. They have a very high intellectual capacity, and I have a high pedigree if you look at my DNA. And, my mom, PhD in physics, my dad, second generation doctor, cardiologist. And so I set these really crazy expectations of myself that I could never surpass them, or that was the old story that I was choosing to dial in and to say to myself. And so that created a constant state of not being happy or not celebrating my successes and, achieving something like doing a 5-year program where I got my master's or and did undergrad and then becoming a Reiki master, getting my coaching certificate, and just really bypassing them and saying, oh yeah, well, it's what we do, it's what I do, it's not that big of a deal, why would I stop to celebrate that? And just constantly not being happy. And yeah, that has shifted, but that's been my experience with being a perfectionist, and I'm recovering. What about you, Cyndee?
Yay. Well, I like what you had to say about unrealistic expectations of yourself because I too have struggled with that in my life is unrealistic expectations. And you know, I I've always found myself trying to accomplish things that weren't meant for me and that always ended in failure, which then would make me want to be perfect the next time and then be perfect the next time and then be perfect the next time. And it always ended up in failure. And I think that, like sometimes rejection is protection, right? So like it's always ended up being a good thing looking back, but at that time I was so devastated. But also I'm the type of person that I try so hard to be perfect, and then it's one extreme or the other. It's either perfection or shit. And that's what it is. So like if I can't accomplish something perfect, then I'm like, well, fuck it. Like it will just be shit. Like I find I bake a lot and I find I do that a lot in baking. Like if it's not perfect, I'm like, well, whatever, I'll just throw it away. But it still tastes good. It might not look like I want it to be, but it still tastes good. And so I trying to find that balance of progress, not perfection. Like I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect, but as long as I'm making progress towards something great, that's good. That's good. So how did this support or slow down your self-worth path, your experience with perfectionism?
That's yeah, it's a good question. Definitely slowed me down because yeah, what you said resonated with me. Um in the past, whenever I used to fail, it was the end of the world. Like I was I was the worst, and it was the most terrible thing. And I would just like, it would take me weeks, months to recover the negative self pity party that I used to throw for myself. And yeah, it definitely slowed me down. Now I look at failing as just feedback, getting feedback, that I just need to approach something from a different perspective, that I need to rethink the way I approach something and go back to it stronger, and just try something else. What about you?
Um, well, for me, I had to realize that living in chaos is not the way to gain self-worth. And so with my like all or nothing mentality, it was just really not working out. And so I had to really realize, progress was good. Like I had said before, like progress, not perfection. And I learned that, when I learned that, that was like a kind of a self change. That was a life changing thing for myself. And, I, I had to really figure out, or really had to like hone in on like making a decision not to decide was still a decision, and I can move on from there. I didn't have to do everything. It wasn't all or nothing. You didn't have to do everything right that second. And yeah, living in chaos is just was not working for me, and it damaged my self-worth a lot. Trying to I end up with a lot of negative self-talk too, like, oh well, you failed, you suck. You failed, you suck. You did this, you suck. Everything goes back to me like not having any kind of self-worth at all. So like really being okay with failing, being okay with trying new things and not succeeding the first time. So yeah, it definitely slowed it down. It did not support how I was living, was not supporting my self-worth path at all. But got to the bottom of it, and so here we are. Um what do you think is most likely the root cause of your fear of failure?
Funny you should ask that, because I don't even know. I stopped counting how many breakthrough sessions I've had this year as part of the coaching program I'm in and all the materials I've been ingesting. The root cause for my fear of failure is not being liked, or not being loved. If love in my old paradigm or reality was conditional, and so if I fail, then no one's going to love me, or no one's going to want to be associated with me. So yeah, that was one of my root causes for sure. What about you?
Awesome. Well, I know exactly what my root cause is. I've done a lot of work around this, and turns out my fear of failure is my mom would tell me everything ended in death. So, like, don't swim in the ocean, a shark will eat you and you will die. Don't go on a roller coaster, it will break, you will fall off and you will die. And so I associate everything with death. So, like, I don't do this perfect, I will die. I don't do this, I will die. So it was always this fear of failing and I might die. Like still to this day, I like that still to this day, I will like trip over something. I'm like, oh my God, I almost died. Really? Did I? I didn't. I'm being dramatic, but it's this fear in the back of my head is like if something small is gonna make me die. What are the odds of dying on a fucking roller coaster? They're very slim, but that's just how I think. And I failing failing is just is not really an option for me either, because if I fail, what if I die? And I've been proved time and time again that this is not the case, but I always go back to the dying. And that's actually when I do something that scares me, or I'm thinking about doing something that scares me, I always say, but can you die? And usually like almost 100% of the time the answer is no. Like where like doing something like wearing a singlet in a powerlifting competition. Can I die? No. Then just do it. Like what am I so afraid of if the end result is not dying? So I know it's extreme, but that's where my brain goes, because we're all a work in progress, right? um
That's right, we are.
what steps can you take to reframe failure as a natural part of the learning process?
I kind of alluded to this a little bit
Yes.
earlier, but
Hmm.
basically, the way I look at failure now and how I've reframed it to me, to myself, is uh, failing is just feedback, and I take it as neutral. It's neutral feedback, right? I don't have any emotion attached to it. If I fail, it just means that I need to rethink how I handle a situation. And I also need to stop and see if there's another way and a better way where I could achieve a better result while trying something new. Like, it's a learning process for sure. What about you?
Totally. I always think about that Thomas Edison quote. It's like, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work or won't work or whatever can't remember the exact quote, but I always think of it like that. Like it's, I found a way that didn't work. So like, let's find a new way. And I do that. I do that in my life. I feel like people think I'm calm in chaos, but that's why. It's like, okay, this doesn't work, so what's next? This doesn't work, so what's next? What's the next right step? And if it doesn't work, we'll find a different way. If that doesn't work, we'll find a different way. But I feel like there's always a way to get to the end goal, even if you're failing along the way. So like you said, I think you said what failing is, what did you say? Failing is feedback. I really like
Mhm.
that because that's true. It's feedback, something that doesn't work. And now I get to find something that does. And I also like puzzles. So trying to find something that works um, is like a puzzle. It's a game. Like I get to find something that works. So um, I just reframe it as something fun. Let's make it a game. What can work?
Hmm. I love it. Is there a passion or hobby that perfectionism may have hindered for you?
Hmm. Um, Two things come to mind. One I talked about in the last podcast with my powerlifting competitions, and not looking perfect in a singlet has kept me from competing for many, many years. Um, but also I used to love to like listen to music and sing along with it. And my aunt, when I was like 13 or 14, she told me, she's like, "You sound horrible. You should just stop singing." And so I was like, I took that as a cue to like, if I don't sound perfect, then I can't have fun and sing along to the radio. So to this day, you always think about that when when I want to like sing along with the radio or listen to music loudly in my car and sing loud. But now I'm kind of in the fuck it stage of my life, I guess, or the fuck it stage of my self path, that I just do those things because I want to, like, unapologetically, fuck it. Like, I'm just gonna do it. If you don't like it, get out of my car. If you don't like it, get out of my house. If you don't like it, who cares? Close your ears, put on some headphones. Um, you know, I it's I just I can't keep letting my fear dictate my life. And I think that's really where I have gotten to in everything. Passions, hobbies, small life events, large life events. I just don't care. Fuck it. How about you? Is there something, a passion or hobby that was hindered by perfectionism?
Oh my God, yeah, everything. Like, but not anymore. Yeah, I love writing. Um, and also, I have a limiting belief that I'm gonna get the opportunity to let go of, that it needs to be perfect, right? We're talking about perfectionism. And like, so for blogs, for example, I used to write content, and it took me a long time to deliver. Like, it would take me days to like edit it, reread it, refine it. And that's probably why I stopped writing. I haven't written anything in like 2 or 3 years, because it needed to be perfect to be satisfactory to me so that I could release it into the world. And I think that's something that I get to shift. And this was the perfect reminder. And to go along with your singing in the car, yes, I love singing as well. And you know, when I was little, I was told I wanted to be an opera singer, and I was told that singing is not going to keep me alive, and it's not a, you know, being an artist equates being broke. And so that I kind of like stopped doing that, and in the last couple years or so, I started bringing it back, and yeah, and I'm singing again and loving it.
Well, maybe you'll sing for us on this podcast one day. Um, ah.
Challenge accepted.
Well, which leads me to my next question is, how does being present in the moment alleviate some of the pressures of perfectionism for you?
Yeah, I don't. I'm slowly getting into the phase that you're describing of fuck it and just doing it and not giving a shit and like doing it anyway. I'm getting there. And yeah, like while there are times where I could have like, you know, the imposter syndrome or feel like I'm not everything that I need to be to have a podcast or to have a blog and to be considered an expert in one matter or another. I remind myself that we're all on a journey, like on a life journey, and that none of us are perfect, regardless if we acknowledge it or not, and that we get to show compassion for ourselves and to be present and to know that we're doing our best. And yeah, and if our best is not 100%, that's fine, right? Like it's a-okay. My best may be 50% today, and I'm okay with that. What about you?
Awesome. Well, two things. Well, one thing comes to mind, but there's two parts to it. So my nephew just got married, and I was going to the wedding. And so I also at the same time was trying to complete 75 hard, that program. And I knew I had to complete that. I couldn't have any mess up days because couldn't afford to start over because I had to get to that wedding, and the wedding was out of state. So I had to travel. And I really tried to I had these unattainable goals and unrealistic expectations of myself, that from the day I started to 75 days later, I would have lost all the weight that I wanted to lose. I would look exactly how I wanted to look. And by the time I got to that wedding, and so I put all this pressure on myself, and I ended up losing like 13 pounds. And I was like, fuck, this sucks. And so I went to the wedding, not able to. I was like, oh, well, this dress doesn't fit the way I want it to do. I look fat. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do my hair this way to make me, maybe that will help. Or like, I don't want to do this. And I had so much self-doubt and and just like self-hatred at around the weight that I didn't lose from this challenge, the program that I did earlier. So, I as I was getting ready, I was like, you know what? He didn't invite me here because I'm thin. He didn't invite me because he thinks I should look a certain way or be a certain type or be a certain way. He invited me there because he loved me. He loves me, and he wanted me out there on a special day. And so I showed up at the wedding just ready to be present and just enjoy the day. And that's what I did. And I spent the day I spent the day really enjoying, like, and really being grateful for the relationship I have with not only him, but the friends in his life all come up, Auntie Cindy, give me hugs, and they love me. And you don't have I think that you don't I think that being present has allowed me to build relationships that I necessarily wouldn't have had, because I take the time to show up, and I take the time to be there for the people that I love, and and the people adjacent to them. So my niece even commented about how I always show up for them, and that really that really touched my heart, and but and it really reminded me that, like, being present with these kids have built these relationships, and they don't care that I look fat in my dress. They don't care about me being my hair being perfect or my makeup being perfect. They just are care that I'm there. So with that, when I came home, there's a second part to 75 hard. And that second part of 75 hard is 30 days of another chunk of stuff. And so I started that when I came home. And my attitude towards that was to just be present and enjoy the process. And so the first 75 days, I struggled with all the stuff. And the last 75 days, I lost just as much weight in 30 days that I lost in 75 days. I lost more inches. And I was happier during that time because I was able to be in the moment, be present, and appreciate and be grateful for the journey. And I really, I can't say enough about Andy Frisella and his programs, but just also the relationships in my life that remind me that being present is something that I need to focus on more and more in my life. So thanks for that.
Oh, that's beautiful. So inspired. It's always really, really cool, and it warms my heart to hear our stories together and to learn from you. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for tuning in to Recovering Perfectionists. This is Cyndee and Gabriela, and don't forget to subscribe, and we will hear you on to the next episode.